What's up, ballers? First of all, I want to thank you guys for listening to the podcast. This specific episode, I'm really excited to share with you guys, is with Faheem Mujahid. He's a performance psychologist, a performance coach, and he works with a lot of athletes. And, we had a very deep conversation regarding beliefs, identity around sports, and what it takes to have the right mentality to succeed on and off the field. He's unbelievable. His insight, not just in sports as a former athlete, but in life, was really impactful for me. And we had a great conversation around money, around wealth management, but most importantly around goals. And, I believe this conversation could really help you position yourself to have a better mindset. His company, See Ball, Think Ball, is making a great impact in the community, especially in the sports community, when it comes to mindset and mindfulness. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. What was your beginning? Like, how did this whole thing start for you? Because you're a former athlete.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think, so how did it start? I think what I've come to learn about self-identity, right? It's a ever always unfolding.
Okay. Right?
I think when I look at the work that I do right now, I think it's something that's been unfolding before I even was consciously aware of it.
Right.
I moved around a lot, went through a lot of adversity early on. So football for me was always an outlet, and it always reminded me or gave me a place where I could find value and self-worth, right?
Okay.
So I think being able to play football while going through adversity, hardship, challenge, change, it was always kind of like the one thing that was stable and stationary.
Did you know that's what it was for you back then, or you just gravitated towards it subconsciously?
I think we tend to draw our value from that which we're really good at. Right? So much of your identity of who you are, even in this moment, comes from the people that you spend the most time around.
Right.
How do you know you're a good brother? Because you're around your brother and he tells you often.
Right.
And if he doesn't tell you, he responds in a way what you're around that solidifies the fact that you're a good brother.
True.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think for me, early on, I realized there wasn't a lot I could do right, but I could really do that right? And as a result, and I think that's the work that I've been going on right now on my journey, is the undoing of identity, right? Because our value and our identity becomes that which we do really well. So I learned early on that was a space that I could really excel, that God gave me an ability, and I had the drive to match that. So it took me places I never thought I would get to be quite frankly. But what took me to this work, or what made this work come alive in me, was a loss. I got a chance to get an opportunity to get invited to play for the Raiders, and at the time, one of my sisters passed away. And thank you, brother, appreciate it. If you follow the game long enough, you realize the sport itself takes you all over the world,
right?
And oftentimes it takes you away from family. So, for me, it was always not being around them, but being around them. I was always somewhere else in a different city, in a different state. But I knew that as soon as I, quote unquote, made it, that I would send for them, and then it would all be worth it. Right. So, I struggled with finally making it, or coming as close to making it as possible to experience that loss. So trying to, find purpose in it, find God in it, right? And to remove the judgment and the pain that came from it personally for me, right? Just not being there. So I think I lost my way, and I struggled with that. And God bless, the teams I was a part of. They tried to put the right people in my, hey, talk to this person, but no one could really help me figure it out. And then I took a trip to New York at the time, and I met this amazing psychology coach.
Okay.
And I remember a friend referring him, and he said, hey, listen, he's unconventional, right? It's coaching, it's not therapy. There's going to be an accountability that's required in the work. And that's what I needed. I needed someone to kind of like, I was tired of talking about it.
Bro,
I needed someone to help me figure it out.
I feel you, man.
So I think I would say, if you were to ask me that question, looking at it now, when did this work come alive in me? It was probably through my own journey.
Right.
It was through my own journey of healing and recovery that I realized that this was my walk, man. This is my work.
And it's powerful because you're talking about theory versus practice, and the fact that you can read a ton of books.
Sure.
You could talk to a ton of people and vent out.
Sure.
And as athletes, we gravitate towards this.
Sure.
Having a coach that holds you accountable for doing the work
Sure.
beyond, like you know what you have to do because you've read it 10
Sure.
times in 4 different books
Sure.
from 10 different people. Like you've seen it,
Mm-hmm.
but actually taking the action and having somebody by your side saying, continue to move forward. That's probably where the most value is, right? Because that's how you get out of it.
Yeah, I would say it's transformative.
Right.
Right. You need, I think at the end of the day, we're all on this, we all want to be seen, like truly seen.
Right.
Right. And I think especially elite level performers, they're so used to being seen with this mystique around them, with this shell around them, with this certain face around them. But I think we're all looking to be seen, and we're all looking for people to do in a loving way. I think we're all looking for people to call balls and strikes. Right. We're trying to figure this out. Right. And I truly believe, man, that I think we know, and sometimes they'll gnaw at you until you answer that call. But I think we all know that there's greatness in us.
Right.
Right. And I think we know when we lost our way. But also it's hard when you're at that level of success. Oftentimes you now become the spearhead for the family. So now it's hard for you to take direction or to take feedback or to take criticism.
Because you always have to have the answers. You're the one that's like, you're shouldering, having the answers, figuring things out.
Sure.
It's hard to go back to be a student. It's hard to.
You know what? And then you're always going to, I heard it once said, once you make it, congratulations, you'll never walk into a room where someone will be honest with you.
Bro.
Right. That's right. So I think, speaking to the work that I do, man, I am so aware of my blessings and where it comes from. Like when I'm working with these guys, I'm not working with, the mystique of who they are, right? Flesh and bones.
Right.
I tell my son all the time, flesh and bones, right? So I think you remove that. And I think when you remove that, it's not something I'm doing intentionally. It's a part of my essence of who I am. So I think when people are in my space, I think they realize like, wow, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Okay. So
I can put this guard down.
I can take it off.
Shield.
I can leave it at the door. Right. And then now we can get to work with someone that loves me enough, that's no bullshit enough, that's going to be like, yo, man, that's not living in integrity. Right. What are we doing here? Why are we doing it? And more importantly, what can we learn to move forward?
So accountability becomes less of a friction and it's more of a feedback type stuff. And is this coach what inspired you to then say maybe
100%. 100%. I remember the first time I sat down with him, he goes, I also have my background in meditation. He goes, when you meditate, you don't meditate for the meditation. You meditate because when you come out of it, everything else slows down. So he says, coaching is the same way, and I 100% agree. Science says that by this time tomorrow, you'll forget 87% of what we're talking about, right? Your brain has other things to worry about.
Right.
But if I give you things to do outside of our time together, that's how we move the needle. So I remember when I came to him with my suffering, he received it, and he said, hey, by the way, can you do this and this between now and the next time I see you? And I'm jacked up, I'm ego guy. I'm like, yeah, but what the fuck does this have to do it? Hey, can you do it? Yeah, I can do it. Okay, just do it. So then you come back. Hey, did you do it? Yeah, I did it, but I still don't understand no, that's fine. Cool. Next week. Hey, can you do this and this? And what you realize is that even kicking and screaming, you have someone in your corner that loves you enough to hold you accountable. And I think the truest essence of love is the accountability, right? The moment, and I've seen it happen on a professional level with teams, organizations. I've seen it happen in marriages, right? The moment you walk into your home and your wife no longer gives you feedback, chances are you need to either right the ship or it's only a matter of time.
It's only a matter of time.
Right? When that player who's a star player now walks into the gym and no one's saying, hey, you're 10 minutes late. Or, hey, did you get your weigh in? Or, hey, chances are you're on the trade block. Right? So I think love comes with that kind of loving but firm accountability. And that's what I try to be for all my ballers.
It's hard for me to talk about love without God.
Sure.
What role do you think faith played in this entire journey for you?
Oh man, I think it's a beautiful question, man. I think it was everything. I had to realize, at least, and this is just me, this is my work.
Right.
I had to realize that it was okay for me to unwrap faith, get it out of the packaging, right? Take it out, look at it, right? See if it aligns, look for the other. Okay, is something else should be. I had to go on my own journey with it. And I think what I realized is, and this is just how I feel, right? This is what I know to feel true within myself. I think I was trying to find my relationship with faith within religion. And I've come to feel as if religion in some ways are like sororities and fraternities.
Right.
Right? They preach unity.
There's tradition and there's...
Yeah, we're all saying the same things, but we're putting more emphasis on the fact that the alphas aren't the kappas and the kappas aren't the zeltas and the zeltas aren't the thetas. So I think for me, what I've learned is that once I was able to unwrap what faith and what my connection to God was, and knowing that it didn't need to fit in your description of it, it didn't need, to look the way it looks for you. I didn't need to go to the places of worship that you go to.
Yeah, it's mine.
I'm with them, right, all the time, and I can even represent that relationship with that energy as a her. I can say I'm with her, right. So I think this journey for sure has been from start to finish. I think at the beginning of my journey, I think there was a lot of anger in that relationship I had with, and I had to come back to that faith. But I think it's been something that's been ever present for sure.
Right, and that's part of the journey, right? To feel the anger and to heal with it.
Sure.
I thank you for sharing that. Yeah. I know it's not an easy question to answer. Sure. I ask it because, and I think we all kind of go through similar journeys. Yeah. But I do find that we're talking about purpose. Sure. And I think one of the things that brought us to this table and to have this conversation is we're both very purpose driven in the work that we do. Yeah. And it's almost like service. We're helping others by doing a service for them. Sure. And that kind of work comes out of love. Like we say no to a lot of clients because the amount of energy and love that it takes to actually get involved in all the different things that we're involved in is very demanding. And we want to make sure that we're doing it from a good place. Sure. And it's hard for me to think about love without God. And that, to me, God is put the purpose in me. And we were talking earlier about how my entire family is media, creative, artistic, and I just wasn't born with that. However, I know factually now that whatever skills I have are here to help me fill that purpose that I have for others. Yeah, and when you do that labor of work of love for others, you get your cup filled even more, right? So, and it's interesting because I'm in a world of money and of numbers, which is usually not very loving, man. I'll be honest. Like there's a lot of like, what's in it for me? It's a lot of fees, a lot of these different things. But when done right, it's all a labor of love. It's all a labor of helping people navigate through their own challenges, their own, traumas, what they grew up with, and figuring out what their North Star is beyond it. Because, for example, you were talking about identity earlier. As an athlete, I grew up playing baseball. All I ever wanted to do was be a professional baseball player. I skipped homecomings. I skipped, field trips. I didn't care for anything else but that. I broke up with girlfriends. I had a priority, and that was what it was. When I realized I wasn't going to make it, there was an identity crisis for me. I didn't want to watch baseball. First of all, I didn't want anything to do with it. It was like getting my heart broken for the first time. But beyond that, it's like, who am I? Who am I beyond this? Sure. And now working with professional athletes and artists, making it is just as big a challenge when it comes to identity as not making it. Because now you made it, and is this all I am? Sure. And then you get married. Now you're a husband, and you become a father. And then you are all these different things, but your entire life, all you've grown up wanting to be is a professional athlete. So when it comes to identity, how do you approach those conversations with guys? Like, what is your method? If you want to put it that way.
Oh man, I think when it comes to conversations around identity, I call it the what else. Okay. Right. I think two things could be true. I think you can have complete ownership of all that God has given you to be able to play your sport at the highest level and demand the dominance and respect that is called forth within you. But I also think that you can also, while also going on that walk and that level of mastery, you can also expand the lens a little bit. And I think what I mean by expanding the lens is that when you're looking at a camera such as this, you can go from very, very focused, and then you can span out. And there's certain lenses that automatically comes with that expansiveness, right?
Right.
The middle lens gets everything. The 55 to 60 gets everything really tight.
Zoomed in.
So I think what I've come to realize, the biggest challenge with people who are in the pursuit of having that mastery displayed consistently is that they feel as if the only way they can reach that pinnacle of success is to have their identity completely clothed in that which they're pursuing and doing.
Mm.
So I think the first hurdle that you have to jump is the belief system that I can be something outside of this thing that I'm doing and still be masterful at it.
Right.
Right. I think when you see the Jordan stories and the Tiger Woods stories and the Kobe stories, you know, they're very linear when you watch the journey, and all you've known is from the beginning, this guy was like this.
Right.
Right. All he walked around campus, you could never see him without a ball. So I think what we start seeing, or at least feeling, is if in order for me to really take stock and show respect to the path that I'm on, in order to play at the level that I need to play at, there needs to be only this as my identity.
Mm.
Right? Because the moment I shift my identity to, oh, I can be a good father. Oh, I've actually liked art all this time.
Or entrepreneurship, whatever, yeah.
Right? Then it weakens me in this field.
Mm.
And when you're in a field of arenas, you can't be weakened.
Right.
When you're in a field full of gladiators, you can't be weakened. So I think so much of the work is allowing them to feel powerful in the what else, not to feel as if the what else is coming to disarm the power that they do have. And once you get them to contemplate, and that's the thing about beliefs, man. I think if you can get someone to, consider it, consider that your belief might be a little bit off, or consider that belief that you have might have been given to you by someone that had well intentions. But if you were to ask them now, 16 years from that conversation, they would probably change it, just tweak it just a little bit. Are you willing to consider that there might be a little bit that can be challenged within that belief? And if you can get someone strong enough in themselves to consider it, then I think you can take the identity from single focus to multiple.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful. I love it. I often compare this to sport athletes, right? So I played baseball, and it's all I did. Okay. And I had teammates, especially in high school when I came over from Venezuela, and I was exposed to, like, wait, there's people that play basketball and baseball.
Sure.
All I've ever done is play baseball. Sure. But that guy had much better cardio and much better endurance than I did, because in the off season, while I was hitting in the batting cages, he was running back and forth on a court. Yeah. So when you are stronger in identities outside of the sport, I've noticed that you gain even more confidence inside the arena, right? But it takes the belief that you can be great in both to do it, and fatherhood is a big one. I think I think a lot of guys gravitate towards it naturally, but they also maybe grew up with their own traumas and with their own fathers or their own parents. So knowing how to be, or who you want to be as a father and how you want to show up, then also gives you perspective on the field. Saying, like, I could, the same professionalism I bring here, I could. It's a job, and you could show up and be present in that way. But beliefs are something that I want to kind of go back to, because a lot of beliefs come from, a moment in time, something happened to me, and I interpreted it this way. And I was a kid, but you kind of hung on to that. Or maybe, you talked about Jordan. He got cut in high school as a freshman. Everybody knows the story. That could have, like, planted a seed in him that could have gone one way or the other. How do you, when you talk to guys about beliefs, how do you approach that conversation?
Man, I always use this analogy, and Jody off screen, she'll probably laugh because she's probably tired of hearing about it. But I remember I wasn't the greatest student in high school, superstar football player. So it came easy for me, right? I just wanted to get to college. So whatever that bare minimum was. So I wasn't trying to, like,
let's make grades.
My son is like on his academic honor roll, and I'm like, that's your mom for sure. But I do remember in high school how heavy and how large the book bags were, right? And I remember thinking to myself at some point, why am I carrying all this stuff around?
Right.
And I remember, I'll never forget, there was a time when it took me to when I was a senior. You know, I had this person who just looked me in the hallway and was like, bro, just take your book bag down. I took my book bag down, we unzipped it. And she was like, bro, 50% of the books you have, of the notes you have, you're not even in these classes anymore. You're not even doing this work anymore, right? That book you were using last year, this is a new semester, it's a new season.
Right.
And I think beliefs work in that same way. I think we don't have people in our lives that love us enough to help us put the book bags down so that we can unzip it and see what are the beliefs that you're carrying and how long have you been carrying them? Because the beliefs that we form are to keep us safe. The beliefs that we form are to keep us strong, clear-eyed, right? So the beliefs are there to be of service of us. But what if those beliefs that were in service of you when you were 10 are no longer in service of you at 25 or 45? So I think, you know, what I always think is a really easy approach to that conversation is a book bag analogy. And
That's
I
great.
always bring it in and players always respond to it because no matter what kind of student you were, you remember
always
the
had
book
a
bags,
backpack.
right? So I think that allows us to have the conversation.
Yeah. And you talk about environment and having, you had that friend that looked at your backpack.
Yeah.
Who you hang around with is
Massive.
just massive, right?
Massive.
And, you know, sometimes even your family, but mostly like, you know, a lot of guys carry with them a group of people.
Sure.
And how do you deal with that environment? How do you talk about it? Do you approach this at all?
I mean, that's a great question, man. It's a great question because I also struggled coming from the inner city. Where you go, you want everyone to go with you.
Right.
Part of love is saying you go, I go.
Right.
Right. And I think where you find that a lot of the struggle lies is sometimes love is also you go, I go, you stay.
Right.
Right. And I think that's not in the standpoint or through the lens of judgment. Right. I think it's understanding that what God has put in you, what he's built for you, what he's prepared you for is a different walk and a different journey than what he's prepared
journey.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think where I find that most high performer athletes struggle with is that, well, if I don't take them everywhere, that means I'm leaving them nowhere. And I think when you live in that space of black and white, it's one of the cognitive distortions that we talk a lot about that exists within this experience of being human. We assume that it's this or that, but I think there's a lot of gray.
Oof.
I think it's a lot of gray, right? So I think it's being able to sit a player down and empathize, right? Because these same guys that you want him to shed himself from were the same guys that helped him figure food out when no one was there.
True.
Or it prevented him from getting jumped that one time where everyone thought he was weird. Right. So now you're asking, now that the rewards are coming in, now you're asking me, more importantly, the people that are asking me are people that seem to be in pursuit of judgment. Right.
You don't know, don't know the loyalty and the friendship we have.
So now just to be defiant of how you're portraying them, I'm going to keep them on even when I know I probably shouldn't keep them on. You see what I'm saying? So I think what we have to do as people that light the road for these beautiful souls is we have to first make them okay. And understand and like, bro, I get it. I get it 100%, right? I think you should leave them behind, but you think you should take them? Where's the middle ground?
Right.
What can we do? Is there anything that we can do that can kind of help nurture the environment they're in as opposed to pulling them into this different environment?
You nailed it, man.
Right.
I think the nurture part is...
How's that been for you in your work?
Well, a lot of times... And obviously we get it a lot on the financial side, but it's like, hey, my best friend since I was a kid wants to, you know, launch a business. He wants to open a car wash, whatever, right? And at times it's like, is your friend a business entrepreneurial type? Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. Do they have a financial plan or a business plan? It's like, no, he's just asking me for $500,000 and I want to help him. And this is better than me giving him money every month, which is true, right? And I do believe in, you know, teaching a man to fish beyond giving him fish. Because if you look at the most successful entourage groups like the LeBrons with Rich Paul, it wasn't I'm going to give you is let's build together. How do we do something to build together? So a lot of what I do is invite the circle in and then pick their brains. What do you want to do? What is your journey? What is your journey like? And a lot of times it's like, dude, I have this business and you know, they have a very product-centric approach to they know what they know. But then to be an entrepreneur, you got to wear all these different hats. So when our clients see us talking to their friends and their groups that they care about, and we're guiding them through their journeys, they don't feel necessarily like they're just like, I'm leaving them behind and moving forward. It's more, okay, they have a path that they got to follow.
Sure.
I am feeling much better about moving in my own direction and watching them first. And if I can support them and the financials are, you know, intact and things are being run well, then I feel really good about it, right?
Sure.
I do think when it comes to family and friends, when you elevate the entire group, then the guys feel much more comfortable saying, okay, I can just go off and not feel guilt, not feel like I'm being disloyal or I'm selling somebody out. Because you're not wrong. Like it really matters to these guys to be loyal. It matters to me to be 100%. Loyal. But whoever takes it from 0 to 10 doesn't necessarily take it from 10 to 100. Right. And that's a difficult thing to realize, right? Sometimes you realize it a bit late. So that I think that journey. There's a guy, by the way, I want to introduce you, Vincent Sanders. He told me this because we work a lot with NIL kids and college kids. He says the hardest thing to be when you're young is yourself. And so much of your identity also comes from your group. And if your group acts and behaves a certain way, you're going to do the same things. And as you grow older, you're like, man, I don't align myself with this anymore. But leaving a friend behind is just not something that feels good at all. So it's definitely a lot. And we were talking about the psychology behind money and you know, some of these mental blocks that these guys have. Their environment and curating their environment to become the best version of themselves is something that we talk. So it's not just like, let's invest your money or let's do a budget. It's a lot of like, let's think about what it is that you want out of this life. And how we can craft a plan and a blueprint to get there. And that's one of the things I'm most passionate about, right? Awesome, is getting to the soft part of it, not the hard coding numbers thing. It's just if you don't know where you're going, no wind is favorable to your boat, right? You're just floating around. You have to know where you're headed. And even if you change directions, plans are meant to change, but you definitely want to have a roadmap, and that's when accountability then can kick in, right? Because now the progress you're making can be held accountable.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think there's also something to be said for if I clarify it and I help you create that roadmap, then the accountability has a place to actually be held. So I think sometimes it's just like going into an organization that's been underperforming for a long time. The last thing they want to talk about is goals and blueprints and roadmaps because now you have something to measure me. You can't master anything until you find a way of measuring it, right? So I think when you talk about bringing their friends on, you know, I think we all go through this life wanting to be seen and considered.
Right.
There is no way you can say you see me and consider me while at the same time cutting off 50% of the people that look like me or that are a part of me. Right. So I think for you and your company to prioritize the entirety of a human being,
right,
not just their output, right, and to be considerate of the people that they love, and that's part of their identity story, it's huge, right? And I think that's why you do such good work. I think that's why you're in what many would call your genius zone, right? Because I think although we can't put our hands on it or our fingers on it, we know when we're around it. Right. It's a reason why we get drawn to a restaurant and seeing someone cook in front of us or seeing artists in Disney World just paint from that place
They're
of
in
passion.
a zone. Yeah.
Right. And you're like, bro, it's hot out here. And he's really sitting here zoning and my daughter's not even being still to do it. Right. Because when you find someone that's in their purpose, man, there's nothing better than that. So I think the work that you do seems so purpose driven.
Yeah.
It just makes it easier for you to consider the people that are around them.
Yeah, anybody can do sports psychology. Or any psychologist could say I work with sport, but the purpose behind it is what makes it different. 100%. And there's tons of companies in our space, but how we approach it is super interesting. Now, let me ask you this because we both work in the same world here with athletes, and a big part of what an athlete deals with on a day-to-day basis when it comes to their fans, maybe the labels they get put on. You're a first-round pick, or you are, you're $100 million contract athlete, whatever. There's all these different pressures that come with the job, right? And it's one of the things we talk about. Like, you're now a professional athlete, meaning it's your job. It went from fun in high school with your friends and college and all these different things. Now you're expected to have a job. And then you get put this these labels put on you that bring additional pressure on top of the bright lights. Do you find that could be, from a psychological standpoint, crushing to some guys? Some guys rise to that level. How does belief fit into all that?
Yeah, man, I think, I always I tell players, no one can make you feel anything, right? Your emotions are tied to your thoughts. These labels that you have, that you're willingly giving people permission to label you as, to the point where you impersonalize it, that's a you thing. And that's where we got to get to work. And I think sometimes what we try to do is we try to take the assumptions as if there's no accountability or agency. Awareness and agency aren't synonymous. Just because you're aware of something doesn't mean you'll take ownership of it. So I always tell ballers, especially those who are given opportunities to continue to find ways to flourish, what are 4 or 5 things, what are 4 or 5 labels that you'll identify yourself with before you're saying, hey, I'm a first round draft pick. You have to practice it, man. You have to practice it, because if labels and being recognized as being a part of the 0.1%, 5-star, 4-star, if that holds value at 17, 18, it's going to hold even more value at 21, 22.
True.
So what we have to start understanding is that be careful where you project your false idols, right? That's you work. That's you work, right? So I think a lot of times, to answer that question, I think it's a yes and question. I think when I find someone that's kind of standing up on those labels, I want to acknowledge them, because those are great labels, man.
Yeah.
And I tell them, I said, man, my God, those are great labels. But I always challenge them to say, well, if you weren't doing what you are doing, what else would you be? And most people, especially those who reach mastery, can never answer that question without naming something else they'll be doing. And I always say, I'm not asking you what you would be doing. I'm asking you, who would you be if you couldn't do what you're doing?
You are not what you do.
There we go.
Right.
So I think it's important to take stock of those labels, but I also think it's important for us to be able to hold each other to the accountability of agency. You get to choose what you let in, right? That's your work. That's where you have to be able to be integrous with yourself and say, hey, I'll take this one, but I won't take that one, right? You get to choose, right? So I think, to the degree in which, and I've been blessed to help a lot of athletes go from collegiate, preparing for the combine, and you see a lot of that pressure comes from the perception that someone holds of you,
right?
First round, second round, third round, right?
How they treat each other amongst each other.
100%, 100%. But I'm not who you say I am.
Right.
Right. We have to understand the difference between, someone else's perception of you and your perception of yourself. Right. I have to sign off on that contract.
Right.
And I think a lot of times when you see their value being somewhat internalized through someone whose job is to be, to criticize, to judge, to find those nuances within where you're showing up short.
Right.
You have to be able to have people in your life that's willing to hold the line and saying, we will not let that in. We will not let that allow you to start approaching the way you prepare for the combine with a 3rd round mentality.
Right.
Which again, a 3rd round mentality for someone who's never been in that position could be a good way to go. But if you're a 1st round mentality, we're not going to go 3rd round because you heard 2 people by the water cooler say it. We're not going to do that. Right. So we are going to be a bit more intentional about what's the standard that we're holding? What's the requirement? I'm okay with taking that label, but it has to have those requirements. It doesn't have those requirements, right? No one wants the friend that anyone can be with. No one wants to partner that anyone can be with.
Right.
No one wants to join the baseball team. I don't think, probably from the moment you found out you were really good at it, I'm sure every team you played on, no one can just walk off the street and play on.
Right.
If they could, you probably wouldn't have been there.
Correct.
Right. So I think we have to start holding ourselves to a higher standard and say, hey, before I take this on, before I bring it and internalize it to where I'm going to let it create pressure, I'm going to make sure it meets these credentials. If it doesn't meet these credentials, then I'm going to have a standard within myself, and I'm not going to let that impact.
It's a lot about how you feel, because if you have that 1st round mentality and you slip to the 2nd round, you're still a 1st rounder in your mind.
Sure.
So it's that contrast where you have to be secure within yourself
100%.
And feel worthy.
And that's the thing. Like if you build your entire performance off of the opinions of other people, then you have to also take the responsibility that comes along with that. It is impossible for you to build your performance off of the opinions of other people to not be impacted when someone has an opinion that's not favorable to you. It's impossible. I'm asking you to do something that's insane.
Right.
What we have to be able to start doing is, before we get into judgment, if we know the combine is coming up, the work starts now.
True.
Right? If we know the draft is coming up, the work starts a year ago. If we know that we're going to go from being in college and playing at a high level to now being on the biggest microscope, then we got to start the work now. Right? Again, you will never have access to something in high performance that you don't cultivate daily. You have to cultivate it. So my son, whom I love, man, he's my hero, my best friend. We have a policy at home. You are not allowed to buy a player's jersey until you buy your jersey with your last name on it and that player's colorway. If you want D-Wade's jersey, then you get number 1 Mujahid. If you want, CeeDee Lamb, then you get 88 Mujahid Cowboy. Once you get your jersey, then you can get their jersey, right? And the reason why I do that is because, again, a lot of times we look outside of ourselves for that which we should always look within ourselves. And when he sees himself in that reflection, I don't want him to see dad, right? That Mujahid, that's you.
Right.
So I think that's where starting my son off early so that he can start understanding, even when you're celebrated, right? Be mindful. Be mindful, because I'm not telling you to not feel the rewards, because God put that greatness in you, but be mindful with how much value you give to it, right? Because if it's value today, then it's also going to be seen as valuable tomorrow. And I don't want to build a man who at 20, 21 loses himself because the opinions of others start to shift or change. I want you to know who you are. And I think that's the work.
How old is he?
9.
Do you ever feel like you got too deep with him?
Nah.
No?
No such thing.
Sometimes I hear like, dude, you're going too deep with your
no
kids.
Such thing,
My kids
man.
are 7 and 9, and I'm having similar conversations with them.
Yeah, man.
But one of the things I tell them is, you're gonna leave one day. I'm not raising a kid that's gonna be at home forever.
Sure.
I'm preparing you to go off on your own journey.
Sure.
And I want you to have all the tools. So,
And then but not only that, man. Like our kids are closer to God than we are.
For sure.
Right? They've been less programmed. There's less unprogramming that has to take place. They don't have a lot of the labels and the layers and the identities and the thought patterns, and they're closer to it, right? Like I'll breathe that life into a baby if I could,
right?
Because I know they're directly connected to it, right? So I don't think there's a such thing, and more importantly, I think you teach that which you seek. So I think a lot of times what I pour into my children, I pour it to it because I need to be reminded of it.
Man.
Just being honest.
I feel you.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes I'm talking to them.
Sure.
And after speaking to them, I'm like, I kind of said that message to myself.
Sure.
But I'm also imparting the knowledge in them early on.
Yeah.
But I wish I would have learned that at 7 or at 9.
Yeah.
I'm 41.
Yeah.
But I'm learning it as I'm teaching.
Sure.
So
but a part of the reason why you're passionate about sharing it with your children is because you didn't learn it at 7. Right. So I think what I've learned is that it all serves a purpose. It all serves a purpose. You are exactly in alignment with the timing of your life and the manner in which it's unfolding. You're exactly where you need to be.
It's powerful shit,
100%.
man. We're dropping bombs.
Yeah.
We're talking about our children, and I have this section in Axel Maximus, which is the Rose Sanders NIL Foundation. Thank you, bro.
You guys are crushing it.
We're doing good. No, but we're growing because we're doing the right work. And the NIL Foundation is the Rose Sanders NIL Foundation came out of this concept where, as a former college athlete, I felt like I had very little guidance. Very little guidance on money, on how to manage myself. You come out of high school where you're still living at home with your parents, and then all of a sudden you're in a dorm, you're responsible for everything yourself. And now there are kids making hundreds of thousands of dollars, and their parents don't even know how to guide them, right? They've never been exposed to that situation. It's earlier than it used to be. It's hard enough to deal with, professional rookies, but now you're a sophomore in college or a freshman in college, and you're handed a ton of money. Which comes with a ton of responsibility. And you're still expected to perform on the field and to be a student athlete. Do you work with any NIL clients? And how do you, how is it different from, working with the older crowd?
It is different.
Yeah.
And I think it should be respected for sure. I think it creates its own challenges and demands 100%. I think, unfortunately and fortunately, I think as a society, I think we've come to worship money.
Mm.
In so many ways, the money buys you the respect, and it
Right.
buys you the temperance, it buys you the patience, right? And I think where I find that a lot of young athletes struggle is that once I have the money, who are you to tell me anything?
Oof.
Right? And these coaches, even at the highest level, they're not making that kind of money that an NIL player is making.
Mhm.
So I think the first thing we have to do is be able to reiterate the other elements of value, right? I feel like there's just one box that's all encompassing, and that's a box of wealth.
Mhm.
Once you check that box, you're superior to everyone around you. And I think NIL, as great as it's been for these players to be celebrated,
Mhm.
seen and valued, I think the disconnect now that's happening is that the degree of respect that is now being lost, and the requirement of grit to be able to be where you are and see things through to the end.
Mhm.
Those are two major things that are being lost. And what's kind of helping facilitate that speed in which those things are kind of dissolving is that a lot of coaches in these positions don't have the soft skills necessary, or at least prioritize enough to see the player behind the X's and O's, to
Right.
get a chance to really get into what I call the shell plate of who a person is, to really get a chance to learn them, see them, connect with them.
Connect.
So, right?
Yeah.
So I think these coaches are still coming very old school in their mentality, where you're going to do it because I say you're going to do it. And it's meeting a conflict with this person who's finally got to the point where the only thing of value, I've already accomplished that. And I've accomplished it to a level far superior than your level. Who are you
Right.
to tell me anything? And I can go wherever I want.
Mhm. And if
With
this doesn't work out, I'll go to another college next week.
with all due respect, go fuck yourself. Right? I mean, it is.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm looking across for you. You don't really care about me. You care about me because I solidify your job here.
Right.
So I think what we have to understand is we have to be able to acknowledge that while something can be good, it can also facilitate something that's also broken.
Mhm.
And I think that as a society, we have to start having conversations where we acknowledge the freedom that comes from wealth, because I'm the first person to go out in pursuit of it, right? I
Right.
want that generational wealth for my children's children as well. But we also have to make sure that we start having further conversations around what else ascribes value to a human being.
Mhm.
Because I feel like a lot of times what's happening now is these players are receiving that income at such early ages that a lot of times they're finding themselves a little lost much earlier.
Very much so.
Because the respect that they used to hold in certain individuals are also starting to change along with the money that's coming in.
Yeah.
So I think, I remember when I first got activated by the NFL, they were saying we're having a challenge with these players because now we're getting a COVID class of NFL players.
Right.
Because these players were going through their own challenges, right? With not having a college experience, right? Being, removed from, their community, being isolated.
Right.
And
Even training camp was
100%
virtual.
So I think the NIL is the same way. I think you're starting to see some of the byproducts of that change that's happening. And I think just like any new car, I think the first model is always usually to have issues. Always wait to get the second or the third one. So I think the NIL will get itself figured out. But I think what it's exposed in the process has been really good, actually.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to force us to, as coaches and leaders in this space, in a different way, it's going to force us to adapt and meet these players where they are.
How do you think do they see money as a tool, or do you think they see money as this achievement? Like, how do you think athletes
I think they see, it's it's hard to speak to that, right, as a monolith, right, because I know there's all different. But I think for a lot of them, which is understandable, a lot of them, I think they see it as a pronouncement, a validation, right? You spent a couple minutes talking about what you sacrificed, right? So I think the wealth solidifies that you should have bet on me. I told you I'd do it.
Right.
I told you I'm better than you. So I think for a lot of them, it's a pronouncement of that. It's that final seal stamp that we needed.
Right.
Only to find that we're still feeling somewhat empty inside. So I think now there's leaders in this space like yourself that are willing to meet some of the best players, biggest players in the world, and come to them from a human standpoint to start furthering that conversation along. So now they're having investment conversations a lot earlier than they would.
Right.
Before they get into their rookie contract. That's a conversation they wouldn't open their hearts to until they were into their final year of their career.
Yeah.
So I think those conversations are happening much earlier. But I think the wealth, especially when it's coming at a young age, understandably, I think it's a validation. And I think it's more importantly, I think it anchors the worth that they're in pursuit of. And I think it's a way of making themselves separate from and larger than those within their peer group, but also those around them.
Yeah. I often have these talks around money as a tool to get you where you want to go,
Sure.
not as the end destination. However, I was also 17 hoping for a professional baseball contract so I can take care of my mom and buy her a house.
Sure.
It's not all about going to the strip club and throwing dollars. It's about you look at your surroundings and where you came from and you're like, this is our ticket out. So you place a lot more meaning in money beyond, even the field. It's just like I can finally give my mom what I feel she deserves, or I take care of my dad and buy him a truck. It's usually buy my dad a truck and buy my mom a house, right? Those are the first two things a guy does. And when you actually get to understand why, you get to see what the money does. And I usually grab onto that string and I keep pulling it to say, the same way you achieved your goal of protecting your family and putting a nice house over your mom's head, because of the money was the tool to help you get there. Now we can use that to flesh out your own plan. Now I know you're 17, 18, 20, 21, and you're not thinking about generational wealth because you don't even have a next generation yet, right? But you can think about what you want your life to look like. What are some of the things you like? And then I get into I remember I have a really, really awesome relationship with a wide receiver in Alabama. And the first thing he told me is, I want to go live in Europe. And I'm like, have you ever been to Europe? He's like, no, but I know I want to go live there, right? Nobody had ever asked him that, right? Everybody's like, how fast is your 40? And, like, what's your catch radius, whatever. Nobody's actually understanding what drove him. And when I asked him, he's like, man, every time I've like researched Europe or I looked, like, I'm more and more curious. I feel drawn to it. Dude, let's set up a plan. Like, you could do this, and we can go visit and figure out where in Europe you want to live, or at least you want to have a place and visit. But you were talking about coaches having soft skills. Those soft skills come from, like, caring, from, like, actually taking a step back and asking those questions, and trying to figure it out. To me, teaching money as a tool and learning to embrace it. We have all these things, like money's the root of all evil. It's not. Like, love of money is the root of all evil. Treating it as an idol is the root of all evil. So once that clicks in their head, and one of the things I speak to a lot of NIL and families, NIL families about is, you have just been given an opportunity. Nobody gave you the keys to the kingdom. You were given an opportunity to go build your own kingdom. You want to have an empire. You got to think like an emperor. And to do that, you have to put yourself in the position of what does who I want to become, how does that person think, and then become that, right? When it comes to that mentality change, I find that the supercar stops being as important, right? You grow up wanting a Lamborghini, then you drive it for 2 weeks, and you're like, I drove it, check.
Yeah.
But you don't have to go spend $400,000 on it, right?
100%.
So a lot of those images and thoughts and ideas that we grew up wanting, we realize, man, it was curiosity. It was wanting to experience something, but it wasn't what I was after. So money's that tool that helps you get there.
No, well said. I mean, my mom used to say, money can't buy you happiness, but it can put a down payment on it. Right? So I think it's, and I think too, when you're young and you get that kind of money, you really don't know how much money it is.
Right.
You just know it's a lot. Right. And everyone's telling you how big of a deal it is. And you can do whatever you want now. Right. With no impunity. But I think what you said as far as being able to, like, even lean into that athlete at Alabama and be like, okay, well, why is that calling to you?
Right.
If you could remove that calling that you feel, if you could remove it, could you? Right? Would you? No. Okay, why? What is it specifically about that image that draws you to it? And then you start drawing on, you're like, man, I don't know if you notice this, but every single image you pointed to, it's just a free space. Right? What does that mean about where you are right now? Do you feel like there's a space that you've experienced in the last 4 years that gave you the feeling that you seem to be drawn to it? Yeah, where was that? What was that? Right? What was similar in that you think is, you see what I'm saying? Because I think oftentimes those are opportunities for us to get a chance to really meet someone for the first time.
Right.
And I think to have someone like yourself, for that young man, it might be the first time that he's had a conversation with someone who's seen him beyond just what he's producing on the field, and enough to be able to be like, hey, I'll meet you on that intention, but I want to know why it's the intention in the first place. Right.
Sometimes you
So
can't unsee what you've already seen. And if you experience something and then you move on from it, sometimes you're constantly looking back like, man, I felt really good.
Sure.
I can't unpack. I mean, I can't pack that back up. I already unpacked it. It came out of the box.
Yeah.
And you're constantly seeking it afterwards.
Sure. But, again, I think, like you said at the beginning, like the fact that you're now a part of his community, he can't unknow what he knows.
Right.
And you can share, you can read and you can pull from different websites knowledge, but wisdom has to be experienced. Right. And it seems like the way that you light the road for these young athletes that are finding their greatness in their stride is that you offer that, you leverage that wisdom from a place of sincere purpose.
Right.
And I think as a result of that, I think the universe, God, will always put good people in your path.
Amen, bro.
Yeah.
This is the part of my podcast that I like the least.
Okay.
Which is when my brother starts waving at me because we're running out of time.
Okay.
Because we could do a 3-hour one, bro. We got to do this 100%, again. 100%. But I don't want to leave without asking you, talk to me a little bit about C-ball.
Think ball. Yeah.
And what's next for you?
Oh, man. It's funny, man. C-ball, think ball. I was a receiver all my life. I have 6 sisters. And I used to have this lacrosse ball in my room, and I would throw it off the wall all the time.
You and I both.
Right. And it would drive my sisters crazy. So when 2 of my sisters passed away, I wanted to make this work about them. And at the time, I wasn't working with any athletes. So C-ball, think ball was a way of bringing their spirit into the space of the work.
Okay.
And just how God would have it. Now you look up several years later and you're working with a lot of athletes and they assume it's because of them. I'm like, no, it's not. It came from a ball I don't even use. I don't have one lacrosse player that I support. So C-ball, think ball is purpose work. I think both of my sisters, and losing them, I felt like there was so much music left in them. So my calling in life, like I said, is to be exhausted, So what's next for C-ball, think ball? I want to wake up with a passion to pour as much of this work into as many different communities and areas as we can. I have my private work that I do. We're getting back into the event space, which is something I'm really passionate about. We have literature now on Amazon to help support athletes and high performers all over the world. We have an app now that's on iOS and Android. So I think it's just expansiveness, man. I think I'm chasing legacy. And I think the more people that know about the work that we do, I think it's going to ultimately begin to start shifting a lot of the mentalities around here and shift the world in the process. So
I believe that too, man.
Yeah, man.
I believe that too. And anything I can do to support it, I'm about it. So,
bro, you've already done it.
Let's do more of these, man. Love you, bro.
Man,
appreciate you being here, man.
Likewise, love, man. Appreciate it.